I stood at the back of the room, glass in hand, watching the man I once planned to marry laugh beside a woman who had everything I wasn't. Jared. He looked polished, important, like the world had never touched him the way it touched me. She clung to his arm, flashing the kind of diamond that screams old money. I wasn't supposed to be there. I knew it. Everyone else knew it. The engagement party was loud, champagne clinking, heels on marble, polite laughs echoing through that pretentious rental house. I had been invited as a formality, a peace offering I should have ignored, but I showed up, not to make a scene, just to prove to myself that I could walk into that room without falling apart. Then she turned to the crowd, Tessa, the bride. Her voice carried cheerful and bright like she was telling some charming inside joke. She said, "He came from so much dysfunction. Honestly, I don't know how he turned out this amazing. I mean, just look at her." Her eyes flicked to me. Laughter broke out, tight-lipped, uncomfortable, but loud enough to sting. I froze. I thought, maybe I misheard. But then Jared's mother, Deborah, always so composed, always so cruel, leaned over to a group of women behind her and said, "She was never right for him. We all knew it." I felt my ears go hot. I hadn't spoken to any of them in almost 4 years, not since the night Jared told me he needed space, and somehow that turned into forever. Not since I left with my dignity shattered but still alive. And now, there I was, standing in a room full of people who used to pretend to like me, laughing like I was a punchline they'd all been waiting to deliver. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch, but inside, my chest cracked wide open. I started walking toward the exit. I just wanted to leave without anyone seeing the heat in my face or the humiliation sinking into my stomach. But my brother Leo caught my arm. "Don't let them chase you out," he whispered. "They already did," I muttered back. Then it happened. The front door opened. A teenage girl no one recognized walked in. Her hair was pulled back in a low braid, and she clutched a folded piece of paper like it weighed 100 pounds. She didn't look at the decorations, the guests, the catered desserts. She walked straight to the mic that Tessa had just used for her toast. People glanced at each other, confused. Jared stepped forward, concerned, but not quick enough. She cleared her throat and said, "I'm his daughter. I have a letter." The room went silent, like someone had hit mute on the whole party. Jared stopped moving. Tessa stared at the girl like she was a ghost, and I stood there, completely still, my hand frozen around my purse strap, trying to understand what I just heard. His daughter? No one moved. The crowd that had been laughing seconds ago turned into a sea of blank, stunned faces. The girl didn't seem scared. She looked calm, like she had practiced those words over and over, waiting for this moment. Jared opened his mouth, but nothing came out. And in that stillness, one thing was clear. This wasn't part of the plan, not theirs, not his, not mine. But it was happening, and none of us were ready for what came next. My name is Mara Lynn, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who showed up to her ex's engagement party. But here I was, wearing a dress I bought on clearance, holding a gift I didn't mean, pretending I was completely fine. When the invitation arrived in the mail, I laughed at first. I thought it was a joke. Why would Jared invite me? We hadn't spoken in almost 4 years. Not after everything that happened, not after he ended things with a text that said he needed space to think, and never followed up. I was the ghost he chose to forget, not someone you invite to celebrate the next chapter. Still, I stared at that envelope for a long time. Something about it itched at me. Was it pity? Guilt? Or did he honestly think I'd be happy for him? I almost threw it out, but I didn't. I left it on the kitchen table for days, untouched, like some dare I wasn't ready to take. Leo was the one who said it first. Go. I looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Why? I asked. Because you deserve to walk in there with your head high, he said. They don't get to pretend you never mattered. Leo's my younger brother, only by 4 years, but he's always acted like my bodyguard. Ever since our dad left and our mom started carrying more weight than her bones should have allowed, he's looked out for us both. When I broke down the night Jared ended things, it was Leo who sat with me on the floor, who told me I didn't break. I bent, and bent things come back stronger. Even our mom, Ellen, who never liked to get involved, gave me a quiet nod of support. She didn't say much. Just left a small bottle of perfume on my dresser the morning of the party. It was hers. Expensive. Barely used. There was a sticky note taped to the side. Wear this. You don't need armor, but it helps to smell like fire. That was my mom. Soft voice, strong spine. So I went. I walked into that engagement party dressed in my best and armed with the silence of a woman who had cried her last tear over a man who made her feel small. The venue was exactly what I expected. Cold walls, gold accents, overpriced catering trying too hard to be rustic and elegant at the same time. Everyone looked like they'd stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. Women with blowouts and fake laughs, men with polished shoes and empty eyes. It smelled like expensive candles and something else I couldn't quite place. Depending. I saw Jared almost immediately. He looked older, sharper. He had a beard now, a little gray in it. But the eyes were the same. Warm, wide, good at pretending. He saw me, gave me a smile like we were old friends. I didn't smile back. Then there was Tessa. She wore white, not by accident. Her dress shimmered and her nails looked like they cost more than my rent. She scanned the room like she owned it. When she saw me, her smile froze for half a second, then returned even brighter, like I was just another servant passing through. "Thank you for coming," she said when we finally crossed paths. Her voice was silk over stone. "Did I have a choice?" I asked quietly. She tilted her head. "It shows a lot of grace. Really, some people wouldn't have the strength." "Strength's funny like that," I said. "You never know who's got it until the storm hits." She blinked once and moved on. Jared didn't say much, just looked at me for a second too long, like he was remembering something he didn't want to admit. And then came the toast. Her voice rang out warm and smiling when she said he'd escaped dysfunction. "Just look at her," she added, eyes full of pity and poison. The crowd laughed like they were waiting for permission. Deborah, his mother, gave the final cut. She was never right for him. I stood there, hearing my past rewritten by people who never knew the full story. They didn't know about the nights Jared cried in my lap, or the years I held him up when he couldn't stand his mother's judgment. They didn't know how hard I fought to be enough, and they didn't care. I started to leave. I couldn't breathe. But then the door opened. A girl stepped in, and everything shifted. The room didn't breathe. She couldn't have been more than 15. Her shoes were scuffed. Her dress was plain. Her hair was thick and wavy, pulled back like she hadn't had time to do much with it. But her eyes didn't waver. She didn't look scared. She looked certain. She walked past tables of stunned guests and stepped onto the low platform where the mic was still standing from the toast. No one stopped her. Everyone was too stunned to move. She gripped the edge of the mic stand, unfolded a piece of paper with careful hands, and said, "I'm his daughter. I have a letter." A soft murmur rolled through the crowd. Tessa's face went pale. Jared's mouth fell slightly open, and for a moment he didn't move. He looked at the girl like she was a hallucination, something his mind couldn't quite process. Then he started toward her, slow and measured. "Isla," he said, voice low, trying to sound calm. "This isn't the time." She didn't look at him. She looked at the letter. "I promised my mom I'd read this. She wrote it for today." A woman near me gasped. Another one whispered, "Is that real?" But nobody left. Nobody looked away. I stayed rooted in place, still close to the exit, still holding my purse like a lifeline. My heart was pounding, but not from embarrassment anymore, from something deeper, something strange. Daughter. That word hit like a wave. Jared had never mentioned a child, not in the 6 years we were together, not in the 4 years since. We broke up in the fall. I remember because the leaves were starting to turn when he ended it, saying he needed to figure out who he was. He said he loved me, but something felt wrong. He said I'd understand someday. I didn't. Until now. I turned toward Leo. He looked just as stunned as I felt. He whispered, "Did you know about this?" I shook my head. My throat was dry. Jared reached the mic, his voice sharper now. "Isla, you can't do this right now. Give me the letter. We'll talk after." She stepped back, holding the paper tighter. "I didn't come here to embarrass you," she said. "I came because she wanted people to know who you really are." Tessa stepped forward, too. Her voice was low, urgent. "Who is she, Jared?" He didn't answer. Isla glanced around the room. Her voice was steady now, like she'd practiced it. "My name is Isla Green. My mom's name was Riley. Some of you knew her. Some of you probably don't. She passed away last year. She raised me alone. She told me my dad was someone she loved once, someone who said he'd help, then disappeared." Tessa's hand flew to her mouth. I watched Jared. He didn't deny it. He didn't speak. He looked like someone trapped between two versions of himself, one that belonged to this world he built and one that never went away. Isla opened the letter. "She asked me to read this when I was ready. I didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough, but I think today's the day." She began to read. The room was so quiet you could hear the rustling of the paper. In the letter, Riley wrote about meeting Jared after he ended things with me. She said he was fragile, still recovering. They weren't serious. It wasn't planned. But when she found out she was pregnant, she told him, and he promised her he'd be there. He wasn't. He stopped answering. He never came to the hospital. She wrote that she didn't chase him. She didn't want to beg anyone to be a father, but she kept his name off the birth certificate because she wanted Isla to have the choice later. She wrote about Isla's birthdays, the nights Isla asked about him. She wrote that Jared had a good heart once. She believed that. But sometimes, fear turns men into strangers. And then she wrote something that made my chest ache. "If you're reading this, Isla, then maybe he's finally seeing the part of his life he tried to leave behind. I hope he does the right thing now, even if it's too late for me." When Isla finished, no one spoke. Tessa turned to Jared, her expression twisted with something I couldn't quite name. Not sadness, not anger. It was betrayal mixed with something else. Shame. He didn't say a word. Isla folded the letter and stepped down. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. The room was carrying every tear for her. I stood there, stunned. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. The man I had spent years defending had been hiding more than I ever knew, and now the truth was standing in heels 2 sizes too small, holding the silence like a sword. And I wasn't going anywhere. Everyone stood frozen. No clapping, no polite murmurs, no buzz of conversation, just a thick silence clinging to the walls like smoke after a fire. Jared didn't move. Tessa looked like her lungs had stopped working. Deborah turned her back halfway, as if pretending she didn't hear would erase what was said. Isla stepped down from the platform, still holding the folded letter close to her chest. No one approached her. No one asked if she was okay. They all watched her like she was a problem they hoped would walk out the door on its own. And in that moment, I saw it. I saw the way Jared stared at the floor like a child caught lying. I saw the way Tessa didn't rush to his side, didn't try to defend him. I saw the way the crowd shifted, not toward him, but away. He had built his whole life on clean edges and curated charm, on family brunches and big plans and erasing every piece of the past that didn't fit his image. But the truth had walked through the door in sneakers and delivered a blow no one could ignore. I looked at Isla again. She wasn't crying. Her shoulders were back. She didn't shrink. She stood taller than anyone else in that room. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to walk out in shame. I wasn't going to disappear quietly while they tried to reassemble their broken fairy tale like nothing happened. I had spent too many years letting other people speak for me, write the story for me, cast me as the unstable ex, the one from the broken home, the girl who was never quite enough. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Leo stepped beside me. His voice was quiet. "You want to leave?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I want to be seen." He nodded, didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. I walked toward the center of the room, not quickly, not for drama, just calmly, like I belonged there. People noticed. A few whispers followed. Tessa's eyes found mine, wide and defensive, like she thought I was going to make a scene. I didn't stop at the mic. I didn't need it. I stopped next to Isla. "You did something brave," I said. She looked at me, surprised. "She told me to." "Your mom?" She nodded. "She was right," I said. "Sometimes the truth doesn't change the past, but it makes it stop hurting as much." Isla's chin trembled slightly, the first crack in her composure. "Thank you," she whispered. I turned to Jared. He looked older in that moment. Not in the way time ages you, but in the way guilt does. His eyes darted between me and Isla, like he was still trying to figure out how this could be fixed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lash out. I just looked at him and said the words I needed to hear myself say. You didn't just walk away from me. You walked away from her. And now, in front of everyone, that truth is yours to carry. Tessa looked at him like she had never seen him before. Deborah finally turned around, her mouth pressed in a tight line, but even she didn't defend him. I stepped back. I didn't need to stay longer. The damage had already been done, but not by me. I wasn't the wreckage. I was just the witness. As I turned to leave, Isla reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was steady. We walked out together. Outside, the air was sharper. The sun was lower. The sounds of the party were still muffled behind the glass walls of the house. But I didn't feel trapped anymore. Leo followed a few steps behind. He gave me a nod like he was proud of me, but didn't want to make it a moment. That was his way. Isla stood beside me on the sidewalk, quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Were you with him? Before?" "I was," I said. "A long time ago." "Did he leave you too?" I looked at her. Her eyes were so familiar, the shape of them, the pain behind them. "Yes," I said, "but not like this. What he did to you, that's something different. You deserve better." She didn't answer, just nodded once. I could tell she'd heard that before, but this time it landed. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if Jared would chase after her or lie or disappear again. But that wasn't my problem anymore. My turning point wasn't a moment of revenge. It was choosing to stay when I used to run, to speak when I used to swallow it all down. I had finally stopped apologizing for surviving him. We didn't make it far before the front door opened again. Jared stepped out, not running, not shouting, but walking like a man trying to prove he was still in control. Behind him, the party had dissolved into fragments, guests murmuring by the hors d'oeuvres table, someone leaving quietly, another pretending to take a phone call just to escape the tension. The story was already spreading. He came toward us, hands at his sides, not reaching, just watching. His tie was loosened now. His confidence was gone. "Mara," he said first, not Isla. "Can we talk? Alone?" I looked at Isla. She didn't say anything, but she didn't move either. Her jaw was tight. "She should hear it too," I said. Jared looked at the ground. For a second, he looked like the boy I used to know, the one who sat with me on the floor of our first apartment because we couldn't afford a couch, the one who kissed my forehead after every argument like it was a promise. But those memories didn't protect him anymore. "I didn't know what to do," he said. "I was scared." Isla didn't blink. "You were scared of a baby?" I was 29. My life was falling apart. My relationship had just ended. I wasn't ready to be a father. "You didn't even try," she said. "I thought I had time," he said. "I told myself I'd go back. I thought she'd reach out again, or that I could fix it when I was more stable." "She died," Isla said. "You had 15 years. She got sick. She worked 2 jobs. She never once asked for anything, and you just kept living like we didn't exist." Jared looked like he had been slapped. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no defense left. "You stood in that room," I said, "and let people laugh at me. Let your fiancé make jokes about the life I came from. You didn't say a word. But the truth is, I was never the chaos. You were." He turned to me, his voice low, almost broken. "I never stopped loving you." The words hit like a gust of wind, but they didn't move me. Not anymore. "You didn't love me," I said. "You loved what I did for you, how I made you feel like a good man. You didn't want me. You wanted someone to carry your guilt without making a sound." He looked away. There it was. The truth no one had spoken, finally laid bare. Tessa came out then. Her heels clicked across the stone patio. She stopped a few feet away, arms folded. "I guess congratulations are off, she said. Her voice was calm but sharp. Jared didn't look at her. He looked at Isla. "I want to be in your life," he said, "if you'll let me." Isla took a step back. "You don't get to decide that right now. You had 15 years to want that." "I'll wait," he said, "however long it takes." She nodded once. "You will." Tessa looked at me like she'd just seen me for the first time. I didn't expect an apology, and she didn't offer one, but she turned to Jared with a calm finality. You lied to me, not just about her, she said, nodding toward Isla. You lied about who you are. Jared stepped forward, reaching for her hand. She pulled it away. Don't, she said. I don't know what hurts more, that you abandoned your daughter or that you stood there with me, smiling like you were proud of the man you've become. She walked back inside. The door shut behind her, and just like that, the picture-perfect life he'd built shattered. Isla and I stood there, side by side. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady, whole. Leo pulled up the car. Isla got in first. I paused before sliding into the passenger seat. I looked back at Jared one last time. He wasn't moving. He was standing where I used to stand, watching the people he once loved walk away, knowing he had no one to blame but himself. We drove in silence at first. Isla stared out the window, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Leo kept his eyes on the road, giving us space. I sat in the passenger seat, hands in my lap, the scent of that expensive perfume still clinging to my skin. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. The weight I had carried after Jared left didn't disappear that night, but it shifted. The blame I had swallowed, the way I questioned myself for years, all of it cracked open and let light through. Watching Isla stand in that room, reading her mother's words, was like hearing someone else tell my story, one I had buried for too long. He had broken more than my heart. He had walked away from the pieces of his life he didn't want to deal with. And for so long, I thought that said something about me, but it never did. We dropped Isla off at a quiet apartment complex on the east side of town. She didn't invite us in, and I didn't expect her to. But before she stepped out of the car, she turned to me. I didn't think you'd talk to me, she said. Most people just avoid it. I've been the one no one talked to, I said. You deserved better. So did your mom. She hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph. She handed it to me. It was a picture of her mother, Riley. She had the same hair as Isla, the same eyes. In the photo, she was smiling, holding baby Isla in her arms. The edges were worn, but the image was sharp. She wanted me to give this to someone, Isla said. She didn't know who, but I think she would have liked you. I held the photo for a long second. Thank you, I said. I'll keep it. She nodded and stepped out. I watched her walk up the stairs, each step slow but certain. Leo pulled away. He didn't speak until we were a few blocks from home. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, I think I actually am. He smiled just a little. You handled that better than I would have. I wasn't angry anymore, I said. I just needed the truth, and she gave it to all of us. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea I forgot to drink. I looked at the photograph again. Riley looked so alive, so full of love, and yet she had carried so much alone. Her strength reminded me of my own mother, of every woman who'd ever been left to carry what someone else abandoned. I thought about Tessa. I didn't envy her. She had seen the truth too late, but maybe now she'd choose better. Maybe that was her lesson? I thought about Jared. He would have to decide what kind of man he wanted to be now that no one was clapping for him. The crowd was gone. The applause had stopped. He was left with the choices he made and the people he hurt. And I thought about myself. Not the version of me they had twisted. The broken girl, the failure, the one who was never right for him. I thought about the woman who showed up, faced the silence and didn't flinch. That's who I was now. Closure didn't come in the way I expected. There was no apology, no perfect ending. Just a girl with a letter and a truth that shattered everything false around it. The next morning, I lit a candle, placed Riley's photo in my desk drawer, and got ready for my day. I didn't need to explain the story to anyone. The people who mattered already knew. For the first time in years, I didn't carry Jared with me. I carried myself. And that was more than enough. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own strength or the strength of someone you love, take a second to like the video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that walking away doesn't mean losing. Sometimes it means finally choosing yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been in a room where the truth finally came out? Let's talk about it below. And if you want more real stories about heartbreak, healing, and hard-won clarity, make sure to subscribe. There's more coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching. And remember, Your story still belongs to you.